Well, the weather outside is frightful, but the football is so delightful. Since there's no place to go, listen to the Get French Football News Show. I'm your host, Nathan Staples, and joining me for the final episode of 2016 are Eric Devin, Philip Bargio, and Adam White. What a great first half of the season we have had, full of thrills and spills, upsets and departures, but most importantly, goals galore. For those, but who deserves to celebrate come New Year's Eve, foreigners and have a drink on who will be drowning their sorrows and creating New Year, New Me mantras. We discuss this action and our half-term awards after the news. Ligue 1's final match day of 2016 was a bit of a mixed bag, as despite some thrilling encounters, it was an evening generally lacking in goals. Saint-Etienne hosted Nancy, and despite the visitors finishing with 10 men, Les Verts were unable to find the net in the scoreless draw, while the same result saw Nice drop points away to Bordeaux, despite a sending off of Mario Balotelli. Les Aiglons were the only one of the top four not to record 3 points, though, as Monaco held off Caen 2-1, despite the visitors finishing with 10 men. Paris Saint-Germain thrashed hapless Lorient 5-0, with Thomas Meunier netting the first league goal, while Alexandre Lacazette scored and set up Nabil Fekir in Lyon's 2-0 win over Angers. Les SCO in dangerous form with just 1 point from their last 6 encounters. At the Furiani, Bastia thought Alexander Djiku's goal on equaliser on 83 minutes was enough to secure a point against inform Marseille. But Clinton Ng scored minutes after coming on his injury time goal, the difference in a 2-1 win that sees l'OM win their 4th straight, moving level on points with Guingamp. The Breton club were to be outdone for late drama themselves, however, as their trip to Metz also saw a late substitute's goal be decisive, with Gauthier Haynes netting Les Grenats a 2-2 draw after Jimmy Brion's brace. Lille also left it late for a point, with Eder scoring a minute from time in a 1-1 draw with Rennes, while Dijon won for the first time in 2 months, beating Toulouse 2-0. Finally, Nantes continued their strong start to the Sergio Conceição era, recording their 3rd consecutive win to move out of the relegation places. In off-pitch news, Paris Saint-Germain captain Thiago Silva has renewed his contract through 2020, while France and Tottenham keeper Hugo Lloris has re-signed through 2022. And that's all for the news. But remember, for all the latest, head on over to our website at www.getfootballnewsfrance.com and follow us on Twitter at GFFN. We start this week with a quick look back at those Wednesday's fixtures, and starting with Paris Saint-Germain's 5-0 win against Lorient. Adam, how much did the champions really need a result in this one?
A huge result for them. They really did need something. I feel like it was more, though, it was Emery that needed the result, less than PSG. Okay, if they'd lost his game, they would have been quite a few points back from Nice, even though at least Nice dropped points on the same night. I feel like, though, if Emery had not won this game, even if he'd won it, but closely perhaps, he would have been in real trouble going into the new year. Given the break, it may have been a decent time to change manager if they really wanted to pull the trigger this early. So the fact that the win was so emphatic, and the fact that they looked like the PSG of last season, perhaps, although it was against very weak opposition, and bottom of the table Lorient by no means should be troubling PSG at the Parc des Princes. It was still a very, very, very welcome result for Emery, and I feel like they would hope anyway that given their poor performances at Nice, as Nice came to the Parc des Princes, at Guingamp and Montpellier were terrible results, really Ludogorets as well, that this perhaps is like that was a blip, and they can focus on building on this into the new year. But a huge result for Emery, and he's bought himself some breathing space, so a massive result for the champions.
Yeah, and that's the major point taking from that they at least go into that winter break with a little bit of hope in their eyes. But Eric, I know you wanted to mention the new deal for Thiago Silva as well, with him going through contract to 2020. That will see him well into his mid-30s now at Paris Saint-Germain. That's a good deal for the club, isn't it?
Well, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what their motivation here is. Is this something to keep interest from China down, or to earn a premium from him? We've just seen with the massive fee being paid for Oscar from Chelsea that there is still a endless supply of money coming from the Chinese Super League, and that's kind of what I think this is in mind of doing. I think that Silva has actually, I mean, Philip as a fan and Adam as an analyst, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like Silva's form has dropped a little bit this year. I think particularly in that game against Nice, his positioning and communication isn't what it could be, and I think it seems strange to give this player an extended contract when he seems to be dropping off a little bit.
He is 32, and he will be 36 when his contract finishes. So it does seem like end your career type of contract, and then go to I don't know the US or China, and last big fat contract to spend your years between 36 and 40. This is what it sounds like, unfortunately. And I'm not offended. I agree completely that he hasn't had the best of seasons, and he is 32, so it's bound to happen. These things are just bound to happen. But I mean, what was the alternative? Did Silva even have an alternative? And did PSG were really going to play with that type of play and say, well, no, you're too old. We're going to give you this chance, which they probably will in a couple of seasons, but just not right now.
No. I mean, for me, I think what could be a positive from this is that the outsized influence that Silva has exerted on the dressing room could be ameliorated to some extent. I think that we really should look at Marquinhos and Kimpembe as being a center-back partnership of the future. Both these guys are 22 and 21, I believe. That could be your center-back partnership for the next 10 years, and you don't have to worry about transfer fees or anything like that. It's the simplicity that would allow PSG to have, if they were to let Silva go at this point in time, where they could still get a fee for him, wouldn't necessarily be the worst thing in the world. I know it seems ludicrous to say, he's still one of the best defenders in the world, but at the same time, if the alternative is being forced into this long-term contract, when he'll surely be past his best, I think that's you're playing with fire there, because even if his performances decline, I think that we've seen the way that Nasser Al Khelaifi has set out to let this club be is that he and his hierarchy are not willing to rein in player power, and that starts and ends with Thiago Silva. So are PSG really willing to risk having a player with declining skills still exert this undue influence on the locker room? I think that's the real question, the real worry for me.
And like I say, it does feel almost like a legacy deal at this point for him to carry on, really. And another important game in those midweek fixtures was Nice's 0-0 draw at Bordeaux. It was an encounter where really either side could have won, but it was a real flashpoint again of Mario Balotelli, unsurprisingly not skipping the headlines, Philip. And again, him getting that red card that maybe takes away some of the optimism from that early solid start that we've seen from him.
Yeah, I think it's been a while since we've seen the Balotelli. Actually, I think it's been since the beginning of the season that we've seen the world-class Mario Balotelli. I don't think he's been world-class in his last outings. He's been injured quite a lot, and he showed all his petulance in the dying minutes of last night's game at Bordeaux. A very well, not exactly a dirty game, but it just didn't end well, and you would expect some of the less experienced guys to get sent off, but it is Mario Balotelli we are talking about. Did anyone pick up on some rumors going back to Premiership or something? I'm not sure if it's rubbish or not. I didn't really check the source. I just hope not, because it started well, and I just hope that this red card is not going to put a damper on this season in the long run.
Again, that's not something I've seen from major outlets, so that might.
It's probably rubbish, Nathan.
Yeah, let's at least hope it's rubbish. Another a solid result, at least after the loss to Lyon at the weekend. Monaco bouncing back with a 2-1 win. Eric, how important was it for them to see out the end of the year on a positive note and remain close to Nice heading into the second half of the season?
I think it was massively important. I think that we can probably all agree that unless PSG really start to shape up, Monaco, given their consistency and their depth, probably are the most legitimate challenger, if you will. They've got the fixtures don't abate, though. I mean, they're going to be right back into the thick of things with the Coupe de France and the Coupe de la Ligue in just 2 weeks' time. So I think having a win to have that confidence and be able to continue their development and to give more time to those younger players in the cup competitions is going to be really important. I think that, again, Caen are pretty poor, but anything even approaching a slip up there, I think the team would have had a long time to stew in that regard, and that could have been potentially really damaging.
And Adam, really to close this talk, a couple of important wins for Lyon and Marseille, who are starting to rise again after the troubles at the start of the season. Lyon now not enormously far off PSG with a 5-point gap in fourth, and Marseille really starting to establish themselves in that European spots.
Yeah, two really big results and a really good way to end the 2016 for both teams. I feel like Lyon's win at Monaco was huge for them, and to back it up, last night against I've forgotten who they beat now, but of course, Angers, was a massive result. And with that game in hand, that which will probably be awarded to them with the Metz situation, they're really not too far behind. And I honestly think with PSG's form and the way that Nice aren't proven at this sort of end of the season, those four are really in a really quite close title race. At least we'd hope going into the new year. So it's really great that Lyon are sort of joining the party, and huge for Marseille. It's great to see them in the top half of the table, and perhaps threatening a European place. It's a club that belongs in the top six. So it's great to see them up there again.
I wish the league would hurry up and make a decision on this Lyon-Metz deal, so we can actually have the confirmations that Lyon will be 3 points behind PSG, breathing down their neck in the second half of the season, which is a much more interesting prospect than saying, well, if they are given this awarded game. I mean, it's been 3 weeks. I think it's time enough to take a decision, take a decision.
Yeah, I would agree 100%. I think just for the sort of almost the integrity of the league, it's something that needs to be cleared up. So, and it's not a decision that should take this long to make, I don't think either.
No.
So, yeah, hopefully they'll do that soon.
Yeah, and just very quickly to mention those teams at the bottom as well. I mean, Lorient took a heavy loss at Paris Saint-Germain, and they need points now heading into that second half of the season. That gets a little worrying. Caen with maybe a slightly unfortunate defeat against Monaco. They weren't too bad, but that leaves them in the mire. Metz picked up a very important win draw very late on at Guingamp that keeps them just in touch with those three other teams before in the rising Nantes. Dijon again picked up the first win in 2 months, and Angers, like we mentioned in the news, we mentioned on Monday as well, to 1 point out of the last 6, and 7 from their last 11 now. It's worrying times for them. But we do want to briefly mention some of the transfer news that's been going on, and that's been Julian Draxler being linked with a move to Paris Saint-Germain, and Hesse possibly going on loan out the door to Las Palmas to facilitate, it would seem, that deal. Philip, what do you think to that move?
Well, first Hesse, him going on loan is probably confirmation that he's not things are not going quite well for him at PSG, playing Coupe de la Ligue games, playing cameo appearances, not having the starts. Not that Bernard had many more starts, but I don't think a lot of people are surprised that he's going on loan if this is confirmed. Not sure if it's confirmed, but so yeah, not a particularly 6 months to particularly remember for the Real Madrid man. And for Draxler, yeah. So Draxler is some kind of a number 10 kind of player. He played there on Tuesday for Wolfsburg when they won at Borussia Mönchengladbach. Had a hand in the goal. Actually, he was quite instrumental with Wolfsburg's second. I do hope though that he doesn't mind playing on the wing, because I just can just see Unai making the mistake of playing in the number 10 one, the 4-2-3-1, and him being stifled by Ligue 1 defenses and probably getting frustrated. I mean, PSG need wingers, and they need actually performing wingers. Lucas has been good. Di Maria has not been good. Unai has to make a stand. He has to make a decision as soon as in maybe not in the Coupe de France, but as soon as the league resumes, just not being judged by your name, but by your performances. So I really do. I I hope that Draxler is okay from the wing. I think he is with this technical ability. He's going to have some kind of what's it called, adaptation period to get used to Liga. But yeah, all in all, I think it's a decent move. It's not bad. He can play. I think he can play in the Champions League, can't he?
Yes, I think Wolfsburg aren't in any European competition this year, so that should be fine. But Eric, what do you think? I mean, Draxler's always been a very promising player and had a great turn at Schalke, but it's not quite panned out for him how he might have hoped at Wolfsburg, and he's been sort of demanding a transfer more than anything, and he's been left out of the squad recently. Is this a good move for Paris Saint-Germain if they do get him through the door?
I don't know. I feel like I think the way you introduced the question, Nathan, pretty much hits the nail on the head for me. He's someone who displayed massive potential while at Schalke, but I think the weight of expectations is sort of borne down on him, and he hasn't really lived up to it at Wolfsburg. I mean, Wolfsburg, last season, some were even tipping him as a legitimate title contender, and things did not go well, to say the least. I mean, they did get to the quarterfinals of the Champions League, but that really wasn't down to much of the influence of Draxler. It was down to the good form of Bastos and some others, and it's a little bit frustrating to see that PSG would splash that kind of money on this player. And I mean, Kevin De Bruyne also was instrumental in that season as well. But in the time since, again, Wolfsburg hadn't been playing on the level that they had, the expectations had been laid out for them, and I think that Draxler is probably the key culprit there. I think that he was brought in for a fairly large fee, and yeah, he hasn't made that step up. And I kind of question whether a player who wants to who wanted out of his situation at Schalke, and obviously has wanted out of his situation at Wolfsburg, has the mental capacity and the strength of character to deal with the spotlight in PSG, especially with the team struggling. If he doesn't get off on the right foot, he's going to be labeled as a bust, and it'll be a frustrating situation for him.
He is costing 36 million. It's
not cheap.
No, it's not cheap. It's not the the biggest transfer record, but he is going to be judged very, very seriously, and a lot of people will say so. Let's see how he delivers, and let's consider this as a following scenario. He plays against a side that played 10 men behind the ball. There are quite a few in Liga, and struggle. Fingers will be pointed, so he has to be mentally quite strong. But I think the same happened at Wolfsburg. I mean, he was brought in to replace Kevin De Bruyne. And that was a massive challenge, because De Bruyne was absolutely sensational for Wolfsburg that season, where they finished second. I think they had the most points runners ever had in the Bundesliga, something stupid like that. So yeah, he's a bit used to pressure with that scenario, but it doesn't sound like he delivered at Wolfsburg, unfortunately. Let's see how it goes.
And very quickly on Draxler, Adam, is this maybe a sign of desperation of what PSG need? I mean, we're not denying that Draxler's a good player, but there's not really anyone else of that kind of caliber available in the January window, is there?
No, I think that's absolutely right. I think if this season had gone as it did last season, then we wouldn't be hearing rumours of, very likely the signings of Draxler and Potts Rodriguez as well. Like, I think it's a reaction to the fact that their season's been so poor so far, and that the players that Emery, the system that Emery wants to play doesn't suit the squad, I don't think, at the moment. And Draxler's a solution to that to some extent, because Pastore's been injured all season. He's that natural number 10, and his fitness is absurd how bad it is at the moment, the injuries he keeps getting. And he's also thought about playing, either rumours that he talked about playing Marco Verratti in that number 10 role, which I think is also fairly ridiculous. I don't know how that. I know that he's capable. He's got the skill set to play there, but I don't think that's something that's a long-term solution to anything at PSG. So I think there's a big hole in that side where Emery wants to play a number 10 in a 4-2-3-1 and doesn't have one. And I think Drax is a solution to that. But it's definitely interesting. It's exciting, if nothing else. And he's a very talented young player still. So hopefully it'll work out, and it'll be another star in Ligue 1 that we can watch every week, week in, week out. So it's exciting, at least.
Yeah, the hope is he can rediscover that form that in the final, I think it was the final year of Schalke where he was absolutely excellent, and hopefully that can be rediscovered with a team that he's actually happy with for a change. But
Yeah.
we'll move on now to what you've probably all come here for with the games out of the way. Now it's time for our half-term 11. So I'll ask each of our pundits in turn their player in each of the positions we've selected in the 11 before declaring for each a consensus on the GFFN's official team of the half-term. So if there's any ties or quibbles, I'm appointing myself head judge, so I'll be the one to decide any mild tiebreakers. But our teams will consist of one goalkeeper, two centre-backs, two full-backs, so that can be allowed to have two left-backs or right-backs if they feel necessary, two central defensive midfielders, two wingers or attacking midfielders, we'll book those together, two strikers, and finally a manager. So we've also had polls on Twitter today for different positions and different awards for later, but also feel free, if you're listening to this now, to get involved with the hashtag GFFN half or HT awards and give us your 11 who you would choose there, and we'll have a look and retweet some of them later on. But I'll start with you, Eric, and we'll start with that goalkeeper position. Who do you have manning the sticks for you?
I have Stéphane Ruffier. I think that he's kept Saint-Etienne in a lot of matches this year. Their attack has been really woeful. Kevin Monepeke and Oussama Tanan have both not been at the races this season. And I think the defense likewise. Perrin's been his usual excellent self, but I think Pogba has stepped off a little bit. And I think that a normally resolute Saint-Etienne wouldn't seem as much without Ruffier's skill set.
Philip, who's your goalkeeper?
Ruffier without any question at all. Echoing everything Eric just said, Saint-Etienne have not been a good team to watch. They haven't been that particularly good defending, and Ruffier has been absolutely immense.
Adam, who do you have?
Ruffier for me as well. He's been absolutely brilliant. He saved Saint-Etienne so many times. So many games where they snatched late goals and late equalisers. They probably wouldn't have the opportunity to do those if they didn't, to take those points if Ruffier wasn't there, keeping them in the game to start with. So, yeah, 100% Ruffier for me.
No debate on this one. No Lopez, no Subasic for anyone.
No. They both had great seasons. I think that in terms of importance to their team, Ruffier has been far and away, perhaps even the most valuable player in the league. You can make an argument for.
Yeah. I
had Alban Lafont as my second choice. I'm a big fan of his. But because he's so young, 17, coming to the side and has looked increasingly assured and is a very, very talented young goalkeeper. But I didn't think I could put him ahead of Ruffier. But he's in the top three for me at the moment. So very good goalkeeper.
I didn't even think of a second choice, actually.
You're all lucky that I also had Ruffier in my team, so he's definitely the consensus pick for our team of the year. So we've got Ruffier solidified in there. So let's go with two centre-back choices. I'll start with you, Philip. Who are your two centre-backs?
I'm going with Glick and Dante. Glick, who has started a new partnership with Jemison. He's been not only quite good at the back, but also providing big attacking presence in Monaco's offensive set pieces. And I reckon Dante has actually has helped Malang Sarr develop into his new role, actually his first role as a professional footballer, as he was being given a contract a couple of months back. And he has marshaled the defense quite well. And I think he deserves the reputation he has.
Adam, who do you have as your two centre-backs?
I've got Glick as well. I agree with Glick 100%. He's got experience. His international experience was good for Torino and Serie A's come in and really shore out Monaco's back four and helped Jemison through the first half of the season. My second one is Christophe Julian. I'm a big fan of the younger generation at Toulouse and that come through under Depraz. And although they signed him over the summer, him and Issa Diop have been fantastic at the centre heart of that defence for to an extent up until there was a point sort of about 2 months ago, perhaps, where they started to get a lot of injuries and their form has dropped off. But for the first 2 or 3 months of the season, those two players were absolutely fantastic. And I was almost one or the other for me. And I think Julian's perhaps a little bit more assured on the ball, looks a little bit more accomplished, contributes the odd goal as well. And I think he's a real exciting player and someone that could really go on to have a fantastic career in not just in Ligue 1 but in European football. So Glick and Christophe Julian for me.
Eric?
I think Glick is a given. I think the way his leadership has helped Monaco take a step up is massively impressive. And I'm actually between Adam and Philip on this. I think Dante has had some iffy matches, but he's also really stepped up in some of the bigger games, particularly against PSG the other week. But Julian has been massively impressive. He's continued his good goal scoring form that he had showed, having moved up from, help me out, Adam, Dijon?
Oh, was it
Dijon,
Dijon?
I think,
Yeah, Dijon.
And he had scored, I think, 9-10 goals last year. He's already got 3 this year. So his ability on set pieces is important as well. He's got good mobility for his size. But given that Nice are where they are, I think Dante has to get the edge on this one, though just barely.
Eric has almost done my job for me, I think, on that one. I think Glick is a given. I would have picked Glick as well. I think he's been superb so far this season. Dante gets the award for GFFM, but there's an argument maybe for Perrin in there, maybe for someone like that. He's had a very good season again. He's always very solid. He's always a very good defender. And playing in that back three that Saint-Etienne are playing now, the lack of pace he's had in the past is maybe less of an apparent taste with him playing slightly further back. But I can't disagree with Dante either. He's been terrific. He's really, like Philip said, helped someone like Malang Sarr, who looks like a really, really terrific player. They looked still pretty solid without him last night, with Le Marchand in there as well and Sarr, but that's at least partially down to how well Dante's probably...
Not the same thing, though, is it?
No, it wasn't quite the same.
Not as assured at the back, though, without him.
No, it didn't look. It wasn't. It showed how good Sarr is, but I agree. It didn't quite highlight that. How it does highlight how well Dante's played to say that it wasn't quite as good. But there are 2 centre backs then, so it's Glick and Dante in there. So let's pick 2 fullbacks, and I'll start with you, Adam. Who are your 2 fullbacks?
Well, I've gone for Sidibe of Monaco, and I've gone for Kevin Malcuit of Saint-Etienne. Sidibe was fantastic at Lille last season, playing at left back, and he's played mostly at right back this season. He's been both sides to some extent as well, but he's just so mobile, gets forward really, really well. Is decent at the back as well, defending, and I think he's just a really dynamic option for Monaco in both attacking and dropping back. With the fact that Tom Lamar and Bernardo Silva play on those effectively wider roles, there's a lot they do cut in. So there's a lot of space to attack sort of on the overlap, which I think Monaco do fantastically well. And Sidibe did that brilliant for Lille last season, and he's been great for them this year. And Kevin Malcuit was one that really was a surprise. I think he's a little bit rough around the edges, perhaps, and his temperament perhaps needs a little bit of work. But over last season, he looked a bit weak, a little bit sort of. Perhaps like he was out of his depth in Liga and when he played over last season and perhaps even earlier this season. But since sort of October time, he's really stepped up and he looks physically stronger. He's brilliant on the ball. He's brilliant going forward, great on the cross as well. And I think he's a really exciting player that's come out of almost nowhere. When me and Eric do our column every week, and a few times Eric had put Kevin Malcuit in the team of the week, and I thought, but I need to watch this guy a little bit more closely because I didn't necessarily agree with that. But Eric was absolutely right to put him in there because he's been absolutely brilliant for the last sort of 2 months or so. So mainly because I was so surprised at how well he's done. But he looks like the real deal now at 25. It's probably about time having come from Niort in Ligue 2. But a really exciting player. So Sidibe and Malcuit for me.
Eric?
I think Ricardo Pereira has been incredible. I think that we've seen when haven't had him, whether it's because of a shift due to injuries or because of simply squad rotation, the step back they take is massive. His movement, his pace, his energy, his directness. If there's any way that they can get him permanently, that they really need to. I went for an orthodox right back, left back, and I agree with Adam's comments on Malcuit. He's probably been the second best right back in the league for me. I do want to give a nod to Fouad Shafiq, though, from Dijon. He's probably a player that most people have not seen play due to the fact that he's with a promoted team who aren't on television at all or a lot. But he's a very neat player. He's not that exciting going forward, but he's really assured in defense, good movement. He's able to cut inside. He's got good physicality. So for left back, though, I would go with Marçal, who's on loan from Benfica at Guingamp. He's been fantastic, 5 assists, great tackling rates. He's been really instrumental in Guingamp's upturn in form, along with some of the other new players that have arrived as well. But I think he's really been the key for that. 5 assists from left back position in a league that's not exactly goal heavy, I think speaks for itself as well. And I do also want to give a mention to Jeremy Morel I think that that might seem a little bit fantastic and smack of homerism for some people. Oh, haha, you're a Leon fan. But I will say that I think that what we've seen from Mukhtar Diakabi in terms of his development has been really aided by Morel. I think that he's not as pacey and as dynamic as he is going forward, as he has been going forward back to his time in Marseille, but his composure and defensive abilities are really impressive. He's only received 2 bookings this season. He's just really played a very neat and composed role, veteran role in this young Lyon team. So Morel would be one dimension as well, but Marcel and Pereira for me as the 2 fullbacks.
Philip?
I'm going to make things very difficult. Well, not for the right back slot. I opted for CDB. He's had a great season, especially going forward. I think the defending has not been so bad, but yes, I did take the superstar right back of Ligue 1, and I was extremely impressed with Delbert Enrique, who has played just like Malcuit actually, has played on as a winger of a 3-5-2 or 3-4-3 sometimes. But I found his defensive work, especially on Aurier against PSG a couple of weeks back, extremely impressive, and just a great find for Nice. Really, really good.
And he's really added solidity. You've all tried your best to make this one as hard as possible for me with so many options. I think the Sidibé is obviously the consensus pick that's been chosen twice, and he's been superb. Excellent at both right back and left back, so versatile, so good at going forward, both crossing and scoring when it needs to. And then I think Malcuit's a close one, Marcel's a close one, but I think the best for me, the first one I would pick is Ricardo Pereira. So he's going in. I think he's and probably the best fullback in Ligue 1 at the moment. He's really, really good going forward. He's pretty good at going back, but given that freedom that he's given in the 3-5-2 now, similar to what Malcuit's been given. But I think Pereira's a really. I can't imagine Nice will keep him at the end of the loan deal. There will be someone who snatches him up from somewhere because he's been absolutely sensational. So Pereira, although we're choosing essentially 2 right backs, Pereira will go into the team for us. So moving on to midfield, I'll start with you, Eric. Who are your 2 central or defensive midfielders?
Tumuye Bakayoko. I think the way that he's come on after dealing with some injury issues, both at Rennes and in his time at Monaco, has been really impressive. He's got physicality, presence. I'd like to see a few more goals from his game, but I think that he has the tools to be this sort of big, dynamic, physical presence, the likes of which we've seen from Yaya Toure in the recent past. Really impressive player, and continues to develop. Again, he's 22. He's not, incredibly young, but if we factor in the time he's lost to injury, this is really his first opportunity to make an impression on at a high level of professional football, and he's really seized it with both hands. And the other one for me, I think, is Vallian Cyprien. I think that his versatility and dynamism have been not unsung. People have talked about him. Have been really important for Nice's season. That he's able to play wide on the wing. He's able to play as part of a 3, as part of any position in midfield. I think that his defensive abilities hadn't exactly been lauded. I think he was an interesting prospect at Lens, but what he's added to his game in terms of being more of a box-to-box player than rather an attacking player is impressive as well. He's just become a really complete and impressive central midfielder.
Philip, who do you have?
I have Fabinho, but I'm really counting in the factor that he can score as many penalties as he likes, because Bakayoko has had a great half season. He's been absolutely superb. And I've had a long hard think between Cyprien and Rabiot, but I'm going for Cyprien, given his age and the fact that he's not playing with superstars. He's doesn't have as much pressure as Rabiot, but Cyprien does get the nod for me. But strong mentions for Timu, Bakayoko, and Rabiot.
Adam, who do you have?
I have to go full house on Wellin Cyprien, who is, although he's 21, he's been a very, very good player for a long time. He was great for Lens before they got relegated, and was brilliant in League 2, and surprised that no one picked him up the previous summer. So Cyprien for me. And I've gone Jean-Michel Seri, who I think is possibly so underrated that he may be Nice's most important player. He's fantastic at that base of the midfield. He's great on the ball, breaks that play fantastically well, so smooth, so stylish. He's absolutely brilliant player. And only 25, he's got a big career ahead of him as well. So I think Cyprian and Seri for me.
I think I've been a little bit horrible in this one. This is probably the deepest out of all of the positions for picking players at the moment, because we've all chosen Cyprian, and he's been super. His versatility really gives him probably the edge over a few of them. Adam, you've mentioned Seri. He's an absolutely sensational player. He's great from that sort of deep line playmaking role. He really makes Nice tick. Bakayoko, you've mentioned Eric. He's fabulous. He's really going to grow into a special player if he can add goals to his game. But the one that Philip mentioned, which is Fabinho, gets the pick from me. He would have been my first choice straight away. I think I've not been this surprised by a player's development in the last 5 years, maybe, from how I thought he was probably the best right back in Liga, and now I think he's probably the best centre midfielder in Liga, which is staggering to think of when I thought he wasn't a great defender maybe 2 years ago, but now he's got wonderful defensive instincts that you see constantly. He's always looking behind him. He's always looking around. Every time you watch Fabinho plays, his head is almost on a spin cycle where he's looking where everything is. He's great on the ball. He's got good passing range. He's got good crosses from wide positions, and he can score penalties whenever he likes. Like Philip said, he seemingly can't stop scoring penalties. So although I would, in all honesty, if we could, and I've not made this as hard as it is on myself, I probably would put all three of them in. But Fabinho just is the pick over the other two, and that's not to take anything away from those two.
You see, just because you said that, I feel really, really bad for Bakayoko now, because it's so unfair on the little guy, because he's had that he's worked so hard, and his job, which is very Makelele like, just goes unnoticed, and he did play basically every game, and yeah, I just feel bad for him.
Yeah,
but I'm sure there's always a next time.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel sorry for Seri, who I like you mentioned. I think he's terrific every time I watch Nice, but it's such a difficult that I made it difficult on myself. But let's pick two wingers and attackers, and I'll start with you, Philip. Who's your two wingers or attacking midfielders?
I went for Bernardo Silva, Monaco, playing playing on the right wing of that 4-4-2, going very extremely centrally, being very good to pick out a pass, having a great understanding with CDB. I don't think there's really a composition for that position, but I'm sure I'm going to get proven wrong. And I went for Lucas on the left wing. Despite being at PSG for a long time, he still shows his motivation, and he does provide a lot of goals for the squad. And he's been one of the better performers for PSG this season.
Adam, who do you have?
I have to agree with Lucas. I think, in fact, on the Football Radar podcast recently, I picked Lucas as my player of the year because he's so underappreciated. I felt like last season when he came in, either through rotation or injury or later in games, he always affected the game. Even in a team with, PSG's comparatively is still man for man, probably the best side in the league, and he always affected the game. And since he's been given more freedom this year to start games and to have more influence, he's been absolutely fantastic. And every time I watch him, I think he's still managed to be underrated. And by Emery, most of all, is he keeps dropping him for Matuidi on that left hand side, which I think is completely baffling. But Lucas for me, and I've gone Tom Lamar over Bernardo Silva. It was almost a toss of a coin between the two, because I think they're both absolutely brilliant. But for me, Lamar wins it with his crossing and his dead ball ability, which is impeccable. Both brilliant attacking. So they're sort of like A-mid / wingers, aren't they? But both they offer fantastic balance for that Monaco side. But if I was going to pick one to play in my team, I think I'd go with Tom Lamar, because I think he's probably got more depth to his game, as fantastic as Bernardo Silva is. So it's almost a little bit of a Laurent Robert about him, and I mean that in like the best way possible. But he's the fact that he's sort of capable of he's capable of the extraordinary from free kicks and dead balls. So Lamar and Lucas for me.
Yeah, let's not tell Lamar about that. That comparison. Eric, finally, who are your choices?
I think Lamar is a given. I think that the progression he's continued to make. I mean, the move that he had made from Caen 2 seasons ago was sort of an afterthought, given some of the fees that Monaco played for the other players. But the move that he had made up as last season, he continued to develop, being capped for the France squad, is massively impressive. And I was between Silva and Mora. I'm going to go with Mora, I think, since Adam and Philip had both gone with him. I think that he is one of the very few players who's continued. He and Rabiot probably are the two players who've continued to improve and continue to develop under Emery, whereas the rest of the players I don't think have, not all of them, but a lot of the other players haven't shown an appropriate level of professionalism under the new manager. So Mora and Lamar for me.
So the consensus is there of Lucas and Lamar, and I will sneakily tell you, Eric, that if you'd have picked Silva over Lucas, he would have been in the team for me to break that tiebreaker. I think he's been terrific. I think Lucas has been very good and has shown flashes of real brilliance that we've really missed from him in the last couple of years. But this is why we like this team of the year being a little bit tougher than usual. Finally, it's for at least the playing staff. It's the strikers, Adam. Who of the two strikers you've chosen?
Well, first of all, I've gone for Alassane Player, who I think again is in a brilliant Nice team. Is another underrated player. He's got 10 goals in the league this season, which in Ligue 1 is a fantastic return for half of the year. And I think that he just looks so confident and he's clinical with his finishing, pacey, can score different types of goals. And I think if they can keep him on form and manage to squeeze Balotelli in around him for the rest of the year, then they're really on for challenging for that title. If they can both score goals. And my second choice of striker is very much against my better judgment, but I think I have to go for Edison Cavani, as much as I really don't want to. In the last, say, 6 weeks, I think he's really looked like the player that perhaps people were saying he was sort of at the start of the season, when after those few games against Metz and Arsenal when he was really terrible, that he's had that fantastic goal scoring record. I don't know that he's as clinical or as prolific as he should be. All right, he scored more goals at this point in the season than Ibra did last year, which was a record-breaking season, which can't be sniffed at within what is effectively a not as effective PSG team. But I just think that he's in there by default almost, because I feel like he doesn't necessarily offer as much as perhaps other players do in that area, and he does miss a lot of chances. I think his movement is fantastic. He's great in the air, but like one-on-one, I don't back him to score. But he has got 17 goals in the league in half a season, so I think he has to be in there, unfortunately.
Eric, who do you have?
I have Playa as well. I think, again, his playing wide on the wing against PSG the other day, watching him shuttle up and forth, and this was against Dijon, they had played at the weekend. Balotelli scored 2 goals, but for me, Playa was the man of the match. His movement and pace, as well as his ability to chip in the odd goal, was really impressive. He did strike the bar in that match, so could have been another one. So Playa, and I'm going to go with Jimmy Briand. I think that he, even though he hasn't scored the goals some of the other players who might be contender for this have, I think that his assists, his movement, his leadership on the pitch. I mean, this is a player who I don't think was viewed in the most positive light during his time at Lyon. He kind of, became a non-entity and was a disappointment considering the fee the club had paid for him. But I think that he was humbled by his experience in Germany at Hanover, and he's really returned to France with a chip on his shoulder. And I think that Gangamp's improvement over last season and this season has a lot to do with Briand's attitude and his leadership. So a little bit of intangibles there, but I think that he's been a really key focal point for Gangamp thus far this season.
Philip?
I went for Alassane Player. I think he's had a better season than Balotelli. He's been great going forward for Nice. He's chipped in with the goals, and I, just like Adam, I just have to go with Cavani because he scored 17 goals in less games played. So you can't really argue with that, even though he should be scoring more. But we don't know how much more he should be scoring so that we could be happy. But you just can't put him out of that. It's impossible.
You've both picked. Well, this one picked itself really. Alassane Player and Edison Cavani will be in there, but no mentions of the 13-goal Alexandre Lacazette. No mentions of the 11-goal Radamel Falcao.
No.
I'd just throw them in there.
Well, so, I mean, Lacazette, I think he played well yesterday, from what I could tell. I was able to watch the highlights, but I think that he's still yet to be back to his best. I think that what we're seeing from him also in this 4-3-3 that Iniesta has been favoring over the last few weeks, and that's seen an uptick in Leon's performance and form. I think he's still adapting to that role. but his movement is going to show more than his goal scoring. For Falcao, if he hadn't had the concussion and the other injury earlier in the season, and he was on 15 or 20 goals right now, I think absolutely. But it's the same thing as Rabiot. If Rabiot hadn't been injured when he was, he would absolutely be my team of the season. But
yeah, me too.
It's hard to factor in an injury versus someone who's been doing it for 17 or 18 matches.
Regarding like I said, it still feels like there's something missing. That he's not 100%. You always feel like he's 19 to 95%, and even that's it's just since his injury, he doesn't seem to have come back into his best form. Plus, those penalty misses are not what they he shouldn't be doing. He shouldn't be missing those penalties. And I do reckon that Falcao has had a good first half of the season. But he's been he has been populated by fantastic players: Silva, Lemar, Germain, Fabinho, Bakayoko. I mean, it's been I'm not going to say it's been easy going for him to score goals, but
it does help.
Yeah, it does help. But honestly, I honestly reckon that it's almost easier to be in a team like Falcao's and a team like Cavani's in this first half of the season. It's been really attack, and if you know where the goal is, it's not a problem.
I just thought I'd mention the few, and players missed a few gilt-edged chances in the last 3 games, but that to each their own. Finally, we'll talk about the manager to manage this team at least, and I'll start with you, Eric. Who's your manager so far this season?
Antoine Camboire, without a doubt. I think that Guingamp have been, if Nice weren't where they are, Guingamp would be the surprise package of the season. Let's face it, Nice have done very well. I'm not taking anything away from Lucien Favre, but they have done so with considerable investment. Being able to afford the salaries of a player like Dante, like Younes Balanda, like Mario Balotelli, there's obviously a considered financial investment in Nice. It's aiding them in doing this. They're able to bring in players of caliber that not other clubs can do. Guingamp, the players that they brought in, the likes of Etienne Dito, I think really stands out to me. A player who I thought was all but done. I mean, I was surprised he was able to even fight another club in Ligue 1 after leaving Toulouse. But when he's played, he's been brilliant. Briand's been impressive. Marsal's been an incredible find. And his ability to work in the likes of Ludovic Blas and Marcus Coco, those 2 youngsters, has been really impressive as well. And he's gotten, he's brought in a fantastic goalkeeper. So I think one that, we probably should have mentioned in our earlier discussion of goalkeepers in Janssen, the Swede. It just has really created a complete and deep team too. Jordan Coco didn't feature a few weeks ago. He brought in Jonathan Martins Pereira. They didn't miss a beat, and they played really well. And they've already claimed some massive scalps in the form of Lyon and Paris Saint-Germain. They're still alive in both cup competitions. It's gonna be a really special season for Guingamp, and Camboire, who for me was dismissed unfairly from PSG, I think is really getting a chance to show what an incredible manager he is. He's always been a favorite of mine, and I think that he's got to be the right choice. Again, Favre and Jardim would be probably my second and third choices, but both of them are operating in a different plane.
Philip?
I'd have Duprat as my second choice, but he's had a great start and a bit waned off in the last couple of months, so that's a bit of a shame. He definitely would have won it for me had Toulouse kept up their form. But I'd give it to Favre as he went into Nice. So quite a bit of expectations. Balotelli's introduction was a success. Dante has been named by us in the GFFN team of the half season, so he has to be good. And I think he's made some tough choices, telling Cotiello that he's not going to be starting anymore. He's going to be playing Rémi Walter to replace William Cyprien and replace him like for Nampalys Mendy, and working it even better. I think it's great. Props to Camboire as well, to finding those players. I reckon Lucado has had a great start to the season as well. But I still give it to Favre. He's a big name in a big town. I'm not going to say big club, because this is not that big in terms of big French football towns. He's delivered in a way. In one word.
Adam?
Exactly, echo what Philip said. I think Duprat, if he'd continued that form, I should say, I'm a huge fan of his, and I just because he's so exciting and he's just so much colour to Ligue 1. But they have turned off. I think that may be a little bit to do with injuries, especially Alexis Blanc, who got injured, and their form hasn't been the same since. And I consider him for our team of the year, or team half of the term, I should say. But I think I have to go Lucien Favre as well. I did consider Kombare, who has been brilliant at Kangon, as Eric outlined, but the fact that everything has gone right for Nice since Favre took over, and they're a team that overperformed last year. Okay, Ben Arfa was a huge part of their success last year in finishing fourth, but the fact that so many things that could have gone wrong for Nice, like they could have struggled with the Europa League, the introduction of Dante and Balotelli could have really gone wrong. He's really brought through players that perhaps onto a next level, people like Seri, Cyprian, who've been brilliant, and the fact that they're ahead of Monaco, and you think about how good and brilliant Monaco have been, both in the Champions League and in Ligue 1, and what exciting football they're playing, the goals they're scoring. Nice ahead of them, like it almost goes unnoticed that Monaco aren't top of the league, that Nice are, because Monaco are the team that perhaps more people are talking about in a continental sense. So it's unbelievable how well he's done at Nice. Having lost one game so far this half season is fantastic. And you think about what he did at Gladbach when he took them from the brink of relegation to the Champions League, and yeah, he's a hugely talented manager, and for me he's the determining factor in Nice being top of the league. So I think it has to be Favre, but huge props to Kombare and Dupraz as well.
Yeah, and I just want to make a brief mention for Leonardo Jardim, who's done a terrific job at Monaco. He's really evolved that team from being a especially defensive coach into a real efficient offensive machine, both in the Champions League and in Liga, and credit to him. But it is Favre who takes the award, and commiserations to Kombari, who has done a superb job so far this season. But our half team of the season, just to confirm them, are Stéphane Ruffier of Saint-Etienne in goal, Camille Glick and Dante as the centre-backs, Djibril Sidibe and Ricardo Pereira as the full-backs, Willan Cyprian and Fabinho in the central of midfield, Lucas and Thomas Lemar as the wingers/attacking midfielders, Alisson Player and Edinson Cavani up front, with Lucien Favre in the dugout. So we finish our half-term awards with a little different this year. We have 4 different categories, but we'll include our current winner and predictions of winners of the award once the season is over. So just to mention previously, back to our polls on our Twitter feed, I think it was hijacked maybe by a couple of sneaky Marseille fans from the looks of our goalkeeper of the year, with Johan Pele winning the vote by a comfortable 65%, which smells to me like the Stade Velodrome got involved with that one. And Stéphane Ruffier in second place, so that makes sense. And for manager of the year, it was agreed with our fan base, who also went with Lucien Favre. Leonardo Jardim finishing second, and other going above Antoine Kombari with 5%. I don't think enough people are watching Gangon, but they might do come the turn of the year now. But we'll go into our awards, and we'll start with the disappointment so far this year and a prediction on who might win the award come the end of the year. Philip, I'll start with you. What has been your disappointment of the year so far? It can be a player, a manager, a team, or even an event if you feel fit.
Bordeaux. I think, but it's almost. I mean, it's almost they are disappointing every season. So it's not that disappointing to say that they are disappointing. But with Jocelyn Gourvenec, you sense something was coming over. That Jérémy Ménez, the player, was going to add something good. It's been a bit better, but you just expect so much more from this side. They just. The defeat against at home to Lille just seems of a side that is trying very hard to become the next big thing. But when Lille come to town and just wake up, they just beat them at home, and Bordeaux seem to just continue to be mediocre, and it has been for years, and you just can't see it changing. I mean, you must be very, very awful supporting them, and then you've got two 4-0 defeats, this goalless draws. It's a terrible end of the year, really. Absolutely terrible.
Adam, who's your disappointment?
I'm going to go with Grzegorz Krychowiak. I was really excited when PSG signed him, because I felt like he was the type of player that they could they really would, could really make a really good use of, considering that we've discussed a lot on the previous show about Motta's perhaps like sort of waning powers, although I don't know that's 100% true. He's been actually been pretty good in the last couple of months. But every time Kroviak plays, he looks oddly out of his depth. I think he was brilliant for Poland at the Euros, and he was great for Sevilla in winning that hat-trick of Europa Leagues under Emery. But he just looks perhaps like not perhaps, I have a feeling it's almost definitely the case, but he's really struggling to settle in Paris, and perhaps isn't on the fringes of the squad in terms of sort of a social aspect, and perhaps maybe he's seen as one of those players that's come in as one of Emery's boys and isn't being accepted too much. But whatever the reason is, it seems to have really affected his game and just lacks confidence, and it hasn't looked like that assured passing, calming influence that he did for Sevilla and for Poland. So I've been hugely disappointed in him, and we talked about Hesse leaving. I don't know that it's going to happen in this window, but perhaps in the summer if Emery's still around, or even if he's not, maybe it makes it more likely. But he could even move on then too, having spent so much money on him. It seems such a waste. But he's been poor for me, unfortunately, so far this season. So Grzegorz Krychowiak for me.
Eric?
Angel Di Maria. I think that his lack of professionalism, especially considering what we've seen from him in the matches yesterday, is just really unbecoming. This is a player who has all the ability in the world, but has now disappeared or is on the verge of disappearing at PSG for 2 consecutive clubs, and it's just really disappointing me. He, for me, could be one of the best 10 players in the world if he got his act together. He should be providing a perfect complement to Lucas, both of them switching wings and creating a really inventive, dynamic, and direct 4-3-3. But instead, he's been indifferent, hasn't worked tracking back, and I think PSG are suffering the most from it, given his reputation.
Yeah, I think I'll give a brief mention on an extension to Phillips of one of my disappointments has been Jeremy Menez, who's been not great, shall we put it that way, and a silly red card at the weekend as well. It's classic. It seems like classic Menez almost for some reason. He's not really hit the ground running at all. He's not seemed quite fit, and I don't anticipate that getting any better as the season gets along. But I think our award winner will be Eric's pick, and that's Angel Di Maria. Full disclosure, I'm a Manchester United fan. There's no bitterness here. but
it's also important to confirm this so that people actually know that he's been really rubbish for 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because if we give it to somebody else and say, well, who the hell is that? But if people start reading this and it gets picked upon, people will actually notice that his career at PSG is taking the exact same direction it has for Manchester United.
It just took a little bit longer.
Yeah, well, yeah, a bit, yeah. It's extremely disappointing.
Very quickly, is there any predictions for who will finish disappointment of the year at the end of the season?
Edison
Cavani. Anything from Adam? Any predictions?
Saint-Etienne for me. I think they're going to finish 7th or 8th and not get into Europa League.
Philip?
Balotelli.
Ooh. We'll keep that. I'll keep those noted in the mind bank, and we'll make sure to pull them up when the do fit needs. But now time for surprise of the year so far, and I'll start with you, Adam. Who's your surprise of this season so far?
Mine's one that's been discussed a lot already, but I'm going to go with Antoine Kombari. I felt that I was surprised that he got the Gangon job. I know he's a sort of a trusted pair of hands in France, and but I've never. I know that he's been one of Eric's hopes for a long time, and he's absolutely right because he's been fantastic this season. But I'm so very much surprised that Gangon have done as well as they had. Perhaps so I'm a little bit coloured from I used to cover Lens when they were in Ligue 1, and obviously they had a bad season when they got relegated, and that one was by no means Kombari's fault necessarily, but he still didn't stand out to me as a manager that would be able to take a team like Gangon into the top 5. So I've been hugely impressed with what he's done, and having, for me anyway, surprisingly got that job, and he's been absolutely fantastic as we've discussed. So yeah, Kombari is a surprise for me.
Eric?
Florian, I think that who would have expected?
Eric, you're breaking up a little bit, so I'll go to Philip with that one. So, Philip, what's your surprise?
I agree with Adam. It's Guingamp. It has to be them. It's been great. They had the new goalkeepers. They found Marçal. They found they both played Etienne Didot, Lucado. Briand has been very good. Salibur as well. everything's been quite fine. Not as good as they are made out to be, though. I mean, there were some performances where they weren't that good. So it's not like they played well for 19 games, but yeah, very very surprised by how good they were.
I'll try you again, Eric. What's your surprise?
Oh, Florian Thauvin.
Oh, you can expand upon that if you like.
Yes. No, I think that this is a player who, playing in this 4-3-3, given a little bit more positional freedom, has been the player that Marseille hoped for when they signed him initially from Lille 3 seasons ago. I think he's contributed goals, he's contributed assists. He's really, benefited from the creative freedom he's had. I think that under Bielsa and under Franck Passy after him, he labored a little bit, and Michel as well, he labored a little bit playing as a more orthodox winger, being forced to track back and cover runs. But I think that now that he's not having to do that quite as much, given that he's in this 4-3-3, he's really blossomed, and he's formed a great understanding with Maxime Lopez as well. It's been great to see that youngster come along as well. And yeah, I don't think we could have expected this. For me, if he continues the kind of form he's shown over the past, say, 2 months, it's not out of the question for him to be a potential call up for France come the matches the next international break. I think the players that we've seen playing on the right for France in the recent past, that's Kingsley Coman, Ousmane Dembele, and Moussa Sissoko, none of them have exactly been into races this season. But if Tauvin's on, say, 12 goals, has a half dozen assists at that point in time, is he the worst shout for a call-up from Deschamps? I kind of have to start to wonder at this point.
You make an excellent point, Eric, and I agree. Tauvin's been super so far this season, but the award does go to Antoine Kombouaré and Guingamp, who have been terrific and probably just unluckily missed out on that manager's award, but they definitely deserve this one. They've created a really nice, solid midfield that you've mentioned, Philip, in Lucado and it's Mustafa.
Yellow. I mean, all the midfielders have been great.
Yeah, they've really, and adding Brion to that, where you mentioned earlier, Eric, and Marcel at that left back, and a great goalkeeper. Yeah, they've absolutely deserved being surprised this season. Do we see them staying as the winner at the end of the season, or is there any other little hints of a maybe surprise coming in the second half of the season?
I've got Nancy as a potential surprise because I felt like at the start of the season I almost wrote them off almost immediately, which is probably a little bit rash of me, but still, I think Carrera's rotation policy is incredibly working really, really well, and they look like a really effective squad, not necessarily a team of individuals or a team of standout players, except perhaps Longley at the back, who I considered for our centre-backs earlier on. But I think, Nancy could finish, not necessarily, maybe not the top half, but I think they could finish 12th or higher, which, considering they didn't strengthen when they came up and, they looked weak in the first couple of months of the season, would be a huge achievement for them. So Nancy possibly come the end of the season.
Interesting one. Any other shouts?
I reckon Marseille, probably not Marseille will surprise a lot of us by finishing higher than we all thought they would. Fifth or sixth, maybe possibly fourth, but not. Whereas before the McCall takeover and before the season started, it could never have been higher than ninth.
Eric, any from your end?
No, I don't think so. I think I agree with Marseille's performance as a team. I mean, they haven't strengthened yet. That's the scary thing about this team. If one of those current top three were to slip up, I honestly think that Marseille, given their lack of European involvement, are probably better positioned than Lyon or Marseille to move up.
Interesting one. That was one maybe our Marseille fans that are patrolling our Twitter feed to keep an eye on. Let's go for young player of the half term or breakout star, as some may say. Eric, who have you got for that award?
I think. Well, let's see. Malang Sarr is obvious enough, but Steve Mounier, is he a young player? He's 22.
I'll give you Mounier.
Okay. I think that this is a player who we hadn't expected a whole lot from. He was second choice behind Ninga, but I think that his physicality, his pace, his power, he's a fantastic striker, and he scored 6 goals in really what's only been 2/3 of a season. This is a player who finishes with 12 or 15 goals. That's a lot in Ligue 1. Especially given this is really his first professional season. I think that Sarr is my pick, but I do think that Mooney is deserving of recognition, especially because he's an orthodox, big, powerful striker. He's not a tricky player at all. He's doing this the hard way, and he fits in really well with the way Montpellier seek to play on the counter. So Sarr, but Mounier could change things.
Adam?
I think I'm going to go Issa Diop. I know he's been injured for 7 of the last 8 games, but and I think the fact that along with Alexis Blanc, when he's been suffering that heel injury, once the 2 players dropped out of Toulouse's team, their form really fell off. And given that he's only 19, Issa Diop, he's been absolutely monolithic at times at centre back for Toulouse, and him and Julien have formed a really, really good partnership. And as we discussed earlier with the centre backs, and I think he's a real talent, and has just burst onto the scene under Domira Badje and then under Dupraz, and has gone from strength to strength. And he has, perhaps maybe in that game against Lyon, he looked a little bit unsure, but that's the only time I can remember really him not performing at an excellent standard. So Issa Diop for me would be young player so far, perhaps because of his the effect on the side of when he was taken out. But a brilliant defender, and could play for the top sides on the continent quite easily.
Philip?
I'm going for Maxime Lopez. A bit predictable, I know, but he's been given his chance by Rudy Garcia, and it actually feels like a new signing for Marseille, where he comes from deep, plays some excellent balls. His relationship with Thauvin is exceptional. He lays off balls to Gomis. Great pass for Gomis' goal. I'm forgetting who it was against. It was Lille. So yeah, Maxime Lopez.
Yes.
Yeah, and our cheeky Low-End fans have also taken over that Twitter one, picking Maxime Lopez, but we will agree with them.
Yeah, but that one's deserved, though.
Yes, absolutely, because he's been
absolutely
not fully. I'm half tempted to go against the grain and be the evil one and pick Malang Sarr, because he's been absolutely terrific, especially at his age, especially from absolutely nowhere. Terrific young defender, could be a very, very special player in the future, but Maxime Lopez has really added an extra injection to Marseille that they desperately needed. And to get him from the academy and not have to worry about waiting until January and getting an injection just like that, he's a very, very special player. Is there any predictions of anyone who might win it come the end of the season?
Name City?
He hasn't played
maybe
for a couple of weeks. Yeah.
Well, is he young?
He's 24, 25. I don't think he's that young.
No, he's not. No, he's old.
Quotation marks old.
I'm 32. I'm not.
Yeah, I'm 30. I'm 30. I wish I was that old.
He's not a prospect at this point in time, I think.
Not really. I mean,
yeah, I think it's the ones we've mentioned, haven't we? Really, it's between sort of Lopez and Sarr really for the end of the season. But last one, and that's our half-term MVP. Who's the most important player of the half-term, Eric?
William Cyprien. I think, again, the versatility that he's shown, the way he's added defensive qualities to his play, his free kick delivery is just outstanding. Think about it. If this team didn't have Balotelli on free kick duty, we probably would have seen quite a bit more from Cyprien this season, and his star would only shine that much brighter. I think he's far and away the player of the season for the team that's been the most impressive in France thus far. I mean, Nice are on pace for 88 points, I believe. That's a staggering total, given the expectations on them coming to the beginning of the season.
Philip?
What does MVP stand for?
Most valuable player.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Cyprien. Yeah, for the same reasons.
Yeah, and Adam?
I feel like Cyprien's becoming a very popular choice, but I'm going to say Lucas. I think he's so underappreciated, and Emery needs to not necessarily build a team around him, but he needs to give him more responsibility and really put his faith in him, because I think he's the key as it stands for PSG in the second half of the season. So Lucas for me.
I'm going to throw a spanner, at least not into the full award. Cyprien clearly wins it, but I throw my hat behind Fabinho, who's been terrific. I think he's watching him play and seeing his understanding of the game at the moment, he's a very, very special player, and he could be. In all honesty, if he carries on like this and maybe Cyprien falls off a little bit, I can't imagine anyone catching Fabinho if he keeps the consistency he's shown in the first half of the season. Yes, he maybe had an off night against Lyon, but that's probably the only off night I can think of in the last almost calendar year, even the time he was playing at right back. But Cyprian's the award winner and deservingly. Is there anyone else that maybe might dethrone him come the end of the season?
Favre. Lucien Favre.
Is that if he win the league? Is it Favre?
Yeah. If they do, I mean, it'd be a huge achievement, and it's looking not likely but possible. So Lucien Favre maybe at the end of the season.
We can all hope. PSG fans can hope at least anyway. That's all that we have time for this week, and in fact this year. My thanks to Eric, Philip and Adam for this evening, as well as everyone who's contributed to the podcast over the last year. Thank you to everyone who's tuned in, even if you've only for a moment. Your support has been very much appreciated. We'll be back in the new year, tentatively penciling in 16th of January, but keep your eyes on our Twitter feed should we come back earlier. But until then, from everyone at Get French Football News, have a wonderful Christmas and New Year. À bientôt and goodbye.